Okay, good morning, Mr. Paul. How are you today?
Good. Good morning, Tracy. It's another Thursday, and we're right on time at 8:10 as usual.
Of course, we're right on time. We're right on time whenever we start. It's. I think our podcast is eight
Eight-ish.
ish is where we
Ish.
go into. Okay, well, and of course this kind of it's kind of a slap in the face for me, but the topic that we want to discuss today is as we want to respect everybody else's time. But we're going to be talking
Ooh.
about respect in the workplace.
All right.
Respect in the
Respect.
workplace. And in thinking about this one, I can't help but think about the RESPECT, find out what it means to me. And I'm wondering what it means to certain people, if that's even able to be quantified outside of just like in a definition. But sometimes values like respect are identified through a story. Somebody has a story of disrespect, like the anti value, and that's how they understand the value. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. There was a movie that came out quite a few years ago. It was No Country for Old Men. And there was a about a Texas sheriff. And one of my favorite lines in this was like at the near the very end of the movie, he's talking with another sheriff, and he says, "I just don't know what happened to respect. It's when kids stop saying yes sir and no sir. That's
Mm,
when respect went away, right?"
wow. Yep.
And it's kind of interesting. I like that movie and that piece because I was just in Alabama a couple weeks ago. I got to Texas all the time, and there's a huge difference between respect in the South and respect in the North,
Hmm.
right? Because
Mm,
when you get out of Tennessee, no matter who it is, it's yes sir, no sir. You go get dinner. The kids are
mm,
yes sir, no sir. At least in the small towns I was in. I'm not saying everybody, but it was kind of interesting because if a 12-year-old or 14-year-old kid walked up to me and we were talking, he said yes or no sir, I instantly had respect for that kid.
mm,
It's when it's shown, it generates itself in the other person.
mhm.
So
That's
I'm
good.
kind of, yeah. So I have a lot of feelings around this because it's interesting because I've been 30 years in the industry, and to watch the newer generations come in, the respect is declining, and it's being replaced by a sense of entitlement.
Hmm. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
And I really do think I really believe it's in the way the kids are raised. There was a generational jump, and it's almost like in my generation is the fault, actually. Not that I raised my kids. I was raised in a highly respectful household, and I raised my kids to, earn what they get, and to show a level of respect to all. Not that that always panned out really well as raising
Yeah.
them, but
Yeah.
um, create a lot of fights. And it's tough. That's it right there. It's tough. It's hard to hold to a standard your own household. So I
Hmm.
think it's almost easier, I think, in some eyes to just let it go. Like,
Hmm.
let them have whatever they want, that they be quiet. And what we do is we end up raise an entire generation or most of a generation that does not have social skills.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. I mean, like when you're talking about, you're raising your kids. I think when I'm looking at like defining respect in the workplace, I'm thinking in it begins with self-respect, and I think that has to be taught. I mean, like the book, or what is it, the YouTube video that went viral from the admiral in the Navy who
Hmm.
who who spoke. I maybe as a graduation, he talked about just make your bed in the morning. It's a
Yeah.
level of
Oh yeah.
self.
Yeah. 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 Ex Navy SEAL. I know
Yes,
exactly who you're talking about. Yep.
yes. So he was just suggesting that like it begins with self. if you don't have respect for yourself, you're likely not going to have the level of respect that you and I in our generation would be accustomed to. And the level of respect, it's interesting. And I just like, I have a background with Chick-fil-A, as you well know, and you have a background in restaurant food service. But think about like when you're at in a quick service environment, you're in the front counter, somebody's coming into the store, they're coming into the restaurant, and Chick-fil-A had a model. They've adjusted it here recently, but the model, a couple of years back before the pandemic was the core four. The core four was I make eye contact with you. You're coming in the store, I make eye contact with you.
Mm-hmm.
Before I've said anything, I share a smile. And then the third thing is I speak enthusiastically and then I make a connection. So it's like this from the eyes to the mouth to the throat to the heart, right? So this was their core four, and that's how they taught that. And it was interesting in training, those that already had self-respect, they didn't really have to be trained much in that. I mean,
Right.
like it was the natural order of things for me to look at you eyeball to eyeball. It was
Right.
already natural for me to speak, like I never had to like, oh, what do I do next? Oh yeah, smile. Like the self-respect was already there because to your point, I was trained to make my bed in the morning. I was trained to, to look presentable when I went out in public. And then do you remember the days when I remember the days when you could smoke on airplanes?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah. Yeah.
remember when
So,
smoking was removed only to the back seats, like in the back 4 rows, you had smoking. And I remember all of them had the little ashtray in the where you on
seats.
the
Yeah.
armrest. But that's back in that. But I remember how everybody dressed when they came on a flight. If you were
Yep.
traveling, you were not wearing your pajamas and flip flops and shorts and stuff. Like you were dressed. It was just a different. It was and I know. Okay, yeah, Tracy's dating himself now, and but I think the level of self respect somewhere, like you already positioned our call today, that self respect got lost.
Yeah.
Where I
And I
don't care.
think,
Only at
yeah.
Walmart is the YouTube video, right? I mean, like how people
Yeah.
dress when they go to Walmart. Like, what are you doing? You needed a mom or dad or a grandma and grandpa to kick your butt in gear and say, we don't wear that outside the house.
Yeah. So, and that goes right back to what I was saying, because you mentioned, self-respect and discipline actually do go hand in hand, right?
Good.
And it's kind of funny. That goes back to exactly what I was saying, because my generation raising kids didn't teach discipline. So if you don't show discipline, then how are they going to have self-discipline, right?
Yeah.
If you don't show them respect, how are they going to
Mm,
have self-respect? How are they going
yeah.
to respect themselves or respect you? Because respect is kind of interesting. There are people out there that demand respect and they never get it.
Yep.
Rodney Dangerfield, no respect, no respect at all. Um, and but those who show respect to everyone get it freely,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the pillars. So it's interesting, and respect's so easy. I mean, it's showing up well is respectful. To
Yeah.
your point, getting on the airplane, showing up well, showing up with, decent clothes, looking respectable. However you are, it doesn't matter. You can wear clean clothes, right?
Mm-hmm.
My wife's grandmother always said, I love it. I said, she says, you can be poor, but soap doesn't cost very much, right? That's a
Mm-hmm. Right.
self-respect
Yep.
issue, right? So it's one of those things, and it really has curtailed in the lack of respect and the lack of self-respect and the lack of discipline and self-discipline has created kind of a generation of anarchists, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whose only interest is self-interest,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
and
When you show yourself up to like I mean, like and this is coming to the workplace. Think about like here, you're all, they use the words put together. I remember hearing that like,
yeah, I
yeah,
like that
they
term.
showed up to the interview, just simply put together. they were showing, they were demonstrating their own personal self-respect.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
if my dad puts on his pajamas and he's got like a sweatshirt and sweatpants, he will tuck his sweatshirt in his sweatpants. I mean, like, he's the only guy that I know of that like tucks his sweatshirt in. If he's going out, he wears a sweatshirt. It says Currington across the thing, Currington University or whatever. And it says like this funny thing, but he'll tuck it in because everywhere he goes, his shirt tail is never untucked because it's this demonstration from his childhood and his upbringing showing the respect. And by the way, our viewers, you don't have to tuck your shirt in to show respect, but there's a level of respect. A lady came in for, she really hounded us to get an interview. We gave her an interview. She showed up looking like she was going to the nightclub. She was in this mini skirt, and Paul, she was shapely, but like a pear. Right. So like, I mean, like, a pear is like whoop, like she was like, she should never have been like, there's only a certain group of people can be like, can sport the mini skirt and make it happen. She could not. But she showed up to the interview like she was going on this like date, and she was a little loose, or a loose kind of girl. She wasn't demonstrating self-respect.
I, you know, that's a rough one. I kind of push back a little bit on that because not from the interview standpoint. So there's two pieces to this. From the dress standpoint, is she had a healthy self body image, right?
Mm.
She felt she could wear whatever she wanted, which is cool. Now, was that appropriate for the interview? Probably not, because again, you're packaging for what you're delivering. So
Mm-hmm.
I cheer her on that she has a healthy body image and can wear whatever she wants. And I think everybody should wear what they want. But was it appropriate for the interview? Probably not.
Right.
I don't want to, I want to make sure that, self respect doesn't need to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Self oppression,
Mm.
right?
That's a great now that's a great and we're on the subject of showing respect, but like showing respect for yourself. And that's a not a different animal. I think it's connected. I think it connects well, and like you would use the word bolts on to the subject
Yeah,
really well. But showing respect for, hey, the environment that I'm coming to.
right.
Like if I showed up on the call today and I had no shirt on, I would not be showing the respect.
For the
This
environment that you're in.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
But like, yeah, but Paul, I'm proud of my body, or like whatever. Like, and there's some guys that like maybe they've got the sculpted body and they're super super proud of all their effort. But like, if you're really toned up like that, shirt on, shirt off, people are going to recognize that. I mean, because that. But I can definitely appreciate what you're talking about, because I think there is a lot of body shaming going on there too. To your point, and so hey, she didn't have the specific Hollywood image that is heralded on TV, but she's proud of who she is, and she's able to be.
Exactly.
And I think
That's self respect.
here's like what you and I just exemplified respect. We respected her for that ability, because not everybody has that ability, because they body shame themselves or whatever, their self-talk, their negative attitude or whatever to themselves. But in the environment that you're in, showing the respect that that position deserves.
Yeah. And you come in a suit and show respect. I think it's funny. Over the years, coming into from the enterprise sales perspective, I would do a first call with a company, and I'd come in a very very nice suit, right? First call, I'd be in there and doing that. And I always paid attention to the environment in there. The next
Mhm.
time I came to the call, I would dress at the same level that they were dressed at. Okay,
Yeah.
there's a site, and I used to have a couple of managers way back when who said, "Why are you showing up to these meetings not dressed in a suit?" And my reply was, because I'm showing them respect, and number two, I'm fitting in.
Hmm.
Okay, because the more I fit in, the more they will like me, the more chance that they will buy from me because I fit in.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And he just kind of looked at me and walked away. Right. He's like,
Did not compute.
it did not compute. But the fact of the matter was, I was executing. So the point is really, to your point, is very much showing respect for the environment you're in, and not that you have to assimilate or be indoctrinated or any of that. It is just a matter of leveling the playing field, whatever you do. So to
Mhm.
the point of this young lady who came in, as I love break apart what she's thinking, because when you walk in, what is your objective? What's the outcome you're looking for?
Ooh, there we go.
There we
Yeah,
go. You know, I'm gonna work that in every conversation.
absolutely. I would have it no other way.
What's the outcome? Now, if the outcome is to shock and awe everybody, your odds aren't. You're probably not going to get the job, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But if your outcome is to get the job, then you'll show respect for the dress that
Mhm.
you'll know who the CEO is. You'll know what the company does. You'll have done your background research on what the company does, the job is. You'll have called in, maybe talked to somebody who works there so that you can understand the culture. And
Mhm.
all of that isn't, it's not only to get the job, but ultimately it shows the respect of the interview that you're
Yeah.
about to go on,
Yeah.
right?
Love that. There's a difference. You mentioned the word about the word demand. That some people demand respect. You will respect. Like the South Park years ago. Respect my
Yeah,
authority. That kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
There's some people that are demanding it, but I think there's others in a more with self-respect comes commanding respect. So demanding and commanding. Commanding respect is when you're commanding respect, it's just I don't have to worry about who the leader is. I know who the leader is. It's kind of like you in the Navy, whatever the brass was, whatever the arm, like you knew whoever coming when the real leader shows up, everybody stops talking. They're listening to that person because
Mhm.
he commands respect, even though he's not demanding it. He's
Well,
commanding.
I'm going to push back on that because
Please do.
he's demanding it. He's demanding it. The military is a different organization, and
Well, I
that
guess maybe
respect
from a
is demanded.
civilian, yeah, from a civilian side, like
Yeah,
when I see law enforcement, they command respect.
yeah.
If I see if you came up in your full uniform and everything, and your whites, your dress whites and stuff, for me, because I value those that served in the military, you're commanding my respect. Like, dude, let me buy your lunch. Thank you for your service. You're commanding my respect
No,
because you know
absolutely.
who.
But in the military ranks, you could be a complete idiot, and you're going to get that same response.
Hmm.
It's not. It's a very, I guess I'll say, show worthy type respect. It's not. It may or may not be real. It depends on that
Okay.
person.
Okay.
See,
Thank
respect
you
is
for that
is all about
clarification.
people, right?
Yeah.
Respect is all about people, and to command respect is to give it freely,
Hmm.
right? I've heard people go, "You have to earn my respect." Screw that. Let's start out from the respect level,
Yeah.
and let me blow it.
Yeah.
But don't tell me that I have to earn your respect, because I just lost respect for
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I
As soon as you throw those words out, my
yeah.
respect for you is gone.
So
Okay.
so you bring up a good thing. Thank you for the clarification on because I wasn't in the military. That's
Mhm.
one tiny regret that I have in my life that I wish I could have served. I actually a little bit envious of my son who's going into the Air Force in August because I wish I would have done that. I wish I would have served my country in that regard. I get to serve my country in a different regard, but I don't get to have that layer to the onion that I wish I would have had. But anyway, and if I would have went in, it would have been Navy. My grandfather already told me. He said, if you go into any armed force, it's got to be the Navy. He was in Korea and he was in the Navy. But so thinking about that, like that video, and likely our viewers have seen the video of the guy, make your bed every morning, make your bed. It's about a matter of self-respect. This doesn't have to do with anybody else. It has to do with you and who you are. You start something, you finish it, and you put it back. You're organized. When that guy gave that, when that man gave that talk, he was in his dress whites.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking when you were saying that, me as civilian, absolute respect because I love my country. But I respected him because he took something so profound and he brought it down into a vehicle of simplicity. Just make your bed. That's how it starts in the morning. Every morning, make your bed. If he would have had that talk in a tank top and shorts and flip flops,
Yeah. It wouldn't have
it
went
would
came
have been.
across as well.
It would never. I mean, it still would have been like, oh man, that's profound. But because of the self respect and I mean, like, so I just thought that there's something different about the way that and I know we're talking about dress and the way people look, but it begins with a personal self respect. I I
Well,
I think.
well, and I agree, and one of the things are the and this is really where he's going, right? I haven't actually seen his speech, so but I just kind of know where he's going, and the where he's going is the self accomplishment, the
Okay.
executing and getting something done first thing in the morning starts your day the right way.
Hmm.
That
Okay.
perfectly squared up bed, and I'm like military squares, right? I don't make my bed like that anymore. No freaking way. So, but honestly, it's the first thing you've accomplished in the morning. It's done. It's completed. You started it, you got through it, and you completed it, and it's a check mark off your list.
Mm,
You've already started your day accomplishing things,
yeah.
and it's not only self-respect, but the mind wants to accomplish more stuff because it feels good when you get something accomplished, and it's
Sure.
very tiny, but back in the back of your mind, somewhere in your psyche and your conscience, you're going, hey man, I just got some shit done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm feeling kind of good about it, so I think I'm gonna go get more shit done. I've got a long list of shit I gotta get done today. Now I got the first thing done, check mark, boom. Heck, make it your first check mark on your list of things to get done. You start. There's something about making that check mark and checking it off and moving on to the
Yeah.
next
It's
thing.
they call it
So
closing cycles.
closing cycles. Thank you. Yes, very much so.
It feels
Absolutely.
so good. You're right. It just feels good when I start my day. I start my day with a clean slate. I got to move around things, and I mean, I can't just work in a dirty environment.
So let's bring this now into the business realm. We've talked a lot about probably the causes, the reason, the
The
generational
expressions
gap, the
of respect.
expressions of it. So you have a business, and this is the group that we're hiring from these days, right?
Mhm.
The group
Yeah.
that's not specifically highly respectful. What do you do, like, to ensure that you're hiring the right people, or at least grooming your people with a sense of respect?
Such a great question. What I have done is with one organization, one quick service restaurant that had they're actually two stores. It's a father son. When I came there, they had three values, and it's just like commitment to excellence, and it was more cliche. We did the hard work of developing their five core values and commitment, discipline, growth. Um, well, I'm missing that one, but respect was on there too, and character, and respect. But respect was on there. So basically, they hired according to their values, and
Mhm.
and it was interesting as we grew in that value, and they started hiring, and then they started doing their performance reviews according to those values. Respect was one. Now, and of course, it doesn't have to be on your values. It should be a value, but it doesn't have to be your core values like this company had. But now I asked that now that the father has moved aside, left it over to the son, I asked the son, I said, out of all the five core values that you have, which one to you is it is the non-negotiable? You do not become, you can be on the roster and kind of be a sometimes in some of these core values, but if you want to grow in the company, you have to have this one. It has to be a must. He said respect. He said respect for me is the biggest one on all the lists, because if you don't have self-respect and you don't have respect for authority, you don't have respect for the customer, you don't have respect for the facility, you don't have respect for your team members, you don't have a job here.
There you go.
So
So,
holding those values, making sure it is a value, whether it's a core value written on the wall or something like that or not, but it must be you're hiring for that, like our banner says, that sense of respect.
and the thing is, it's great when you ideate that and you get it in perspective. As you're opening your new business, you should always have core values. But say I've been in business for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and now I'm running into and the fast food service industry is like struggling with this anyway, right?
Ah,
Um,
retail as well. Retail as well.
Retail as well. Yeah, retail as well. Um, so you've been in business for a while. What do you do now that you've suddenly realized, oh my God, respect is like that's the thing we got to work on, because that's honestly, it's the foundation of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have that in our organization. What do we do?
I love. Okay, so you teed me up and you got my curiosity. My initial response is, and I've had this conversation. If you want to stand out amongst all the other noise in your industry, all the other people that are doing it in your industry, you want to stand out. Coming back to the simplicity of human exchange, of transacting business through your person, you don't really have to do much beyond like the respect, beyond just connection with human beings to make yourself stand out, because very few people are doing it. I mean, the bar is set so low today that you don't have to do much more to make yourself stand out. Like I go there, Chick-fil-A doesn't have the best chicken, but if you go there and you feel respected by the team, yes, like you talked about, yes sir, no sir, even if they're trained in that because that's their part of their process. I go there because I just want to be treated with decency. I want to be treated with courtesy.
Bingo. You just said the word I was looking for. Bingo.
Okay,
Tracy just
give me
won. Training.
gold star training.
Training. I need to orchestrate a training program that is wrapped around respect.
Isn't that
And
so
I
funny?
I I need to train that and build it into my daily meetings and build it into my weekly trainings, and I need to constantly support that idea in
Hmm.
my organization.
Yeah,
And it
Paul.
doesn't change overnight.
Yeah, right. Sure,
It
sure.
it takes 21 days to change a habit, and it takes a year to build a culture,
Hmm. Wow.
as long as you're committed to it.
Paul, what's so funny, I smile at this because, like, when I grew up, workplaces, they did not have to teach it. I do believe respect is a training issue. Yes, absolutely. But where does it begin? It should not have be. It is today in the workplace, but like we failed. We failed to raise the kids right, or the grandparents right, like whatever it was. Like somewhere from the school system, from like whatever, like churches, schools, and family, right? All three of them are in the early days providing this education, this environment, the exposure, the experiences to these kind of things that are just taken so much for granted. And now it falls upon the workplace to teach or train their team how to properly respect each other, how to properly respect the guests, the facility. Like I have a problem stepping over trash. It's not my facility, but if it is my facility for sure, I can't step it. I got to pick it up because it's
Yep.
garbage. I respect environment. I respect nature. I mean, like if there's garbage, I can't stand to see, the old junkyard. It's just like, oh man, grass growing through tires and stuff like that.
We were out on Lake Wissota this last weekend, out on the jet skis, and we're cruising all around the place, and all of a sudden I stopped, and my son's kind of looking at me like, "Why are you stopping?" And I picked a couple of shoes up out of the water and put them in my thing, and when I got back to the dock, I turned them in over to the lost and found at the dock, and
Hmm.
it's kind of like, but 90% of the people would have went right by the garbage in the lake.
Yeah.
It's if every person who went out there saw something and picked it up, we wouldn't
Yep.
have a problem. That's respect for the environment, right?
Hmm.
It's I totally agree with you. And as much as it's kind of like you have to recognize you have a problem, and we're
Yeah.
just recognizing that we have a problem. I
Yep.
mean, we know there's a problem. We're just recognizing where it's actually coming from at this point.
Hmm. Yeah.
And
Right.
honestly, somebody has to pick up the garbage.
Hmm.
Why not you? Why not me?
Right.
Right? And as a business owner, why not you?
Yeah.
We got to pick up the garbage and we got to improve it. Number one, this is an investment in that person's long term success,
Yeah.
because until they grasp on to the concept and execute on the concept of respect, they're not going very far in their industry. And if they do, at some point they're going to run into a brick wall.
Hmm.
So it's not just about, okay, yeah, it's we raised our kids right, we did all that. That's irrelevant. It really is. It is. We have the problem. How do we fix it? And then executing on fixing it.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, one of the cost of business today, if you want to, as you put, separate yourself from everybody else in the industry, is a good training platform consistent with reinforcement,
Yeah.
wrapped around respect, personal relationships, and how to be socially acceptable, how to be
Mm.
social, right?
Yeah.
Because that's a social issue.
Yeah.
And it all falls down to showing up well,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So the and like you and I have been to some of the same conferences, and the conferences, like they'll say that, hey, our suggestion is that you wear a sports coat and the dress is business casual. But then somebody comes in a tank top, flip flops, and shorts,
yep,
and disrespecting the wishes of those that are putting on, like, that is the environment you're in. So like Chick-fil-A, you get issued a shirt, you get two shirts, you get two pair of pants, you get a belt, and they tell you to wear black socks and non-slip shoes. They'll give you a credit for the non-slip shoes, but you've got to provide the black socks. And it's interesting how many people will push the envelope.
oh
They
yeah,
will not. They don't let you work. If they may have belts in the back that they'll let you borrow if you showed up without your belt, but that shirt has to be tucked in, and you have to have. I mean, like, you have to be in complete uniform to respect the brand.
yep. That's
And they're
brand
like,
what brand? Yeah,
yeah, I mean, like,
brand
basically,
compliance.
they're training you that, like, hey, you don't respect the other team if you show up in non-slip shoes. You don't respect the one who owns that, because you could fall, you could get hurt. You have lack of self-respect. You come into white gym shoes just because they're the most comfortable ones you have, but you're working on slick surfaces. For them, go home. Go bring your shoes, and if you get your shoes, you can come back. Oh, but by the way, you missed your employee meal, because I mean, that's the penalty. The penalty is that you didn't respect it enough to do that, so you don't get to work the shift today. Oh, great, I get to have a day off. Again, you don't have self-respect. Now you
So,
put us in a bind because you didn't have respect enough to come dressed in full uniform. Now we don't get to work. You may not have a job. But holding that standard is so hard, like when we said, because the bar is so low that people are not trained in this thing. And so, like you said, we have to build this bar back up to where it has this level of respect again.
that's right. So, big takeaway today.
Hey,
Identify if you have respect issues in your organization. Do
yep.
you? If you do, you need to put together a training program with full support and build it into your dailies, your weeklies, your monthlies, and make it a part of your culture. If
Hmm.
respect's not a part of your culture, you'll never make you won't make it in the long run. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
Yep. My takeaway, Paul, you were talking about the leader being the one leading by example and picking up the trash. Pick up the trash yourself. Don't wait for other people to come pick it up. Pick it up. And my mind went to, there was a program. I think it had like 2 or 3 seasons, called Longmire, and
Uh,
it was set out in like Wyoming or something like that, maybe Montana. But Longmire was a sheriff of this particular big county, and you're 2 scenes in the very first episode, and he's picking up beer cans or pop bottle cans from off the ground, and he's just tossing it in the back of his truck.
Mm-hmm.
He just picks it up, tosses it, and then like when he's walking into the office, he collects everything he tossed in there, takes it to the garbage can and puts it in. And they created an entire scene of this guy bringing somebody else's rubbish, putting it in his vehicle, and then taking it from his vehicle and putting it in the garbage can. That's how important the self-respect, the respect for the environment, the respect for himself, that's how important it is. And the writers, whoever did the editing and the writers, put that in there. I mean, like, this is play acting, but
Yep.
put it in there and it stands out to me.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Love it. Great stuff, Paul. Always a pleasure to get to wrap these sessions up like this and help our viewers.
Absolutely. So we'll see you next Thursday at about the same time, 8-ish.
I love that. Yeah, about the same time.
About the same
Absolutely.
time.
Yep. Take
Have a
care,
great
everybody.
week.
All right.